one, a king leaves his monarchy. If a king leaves, everyone's going to need to know why, right? There's nothing in history where, or in a nation where a king departs from his throne, a president resigns, except that it's going to be taught. It's going to be said all the time. So that's why spiritual matters occur to kings all the time, not because they have achieved a special rank, but because whatever happens to a king trickles down. Here you have this king going to destroy an entire city, then stopping. So people are going to talk. Like, what is this incident and why did it happen, etc. وَأَعْجَبَهُ مَا سَمِعَ مِنْهُمَا. So he was happy about this. فَانْصَرَفَ عَنِ الْمَدِينَةِ وَاتَّبَعَهُمَا عَلَى دِينِهِمَا. He became their disciple. He said, I'm not going to fight Medina anymore. I'm not going to fight Yathrib. And I'm going to follow them. And so he became a Jew. Okay. وَكَانَ تُبَّعْ تبان أسعد والد أبي كرب. Okay. قومه أصحاب أوثان يعبدونها. They were pagans and polytheists that used to worship idols. فتوجه إلى مكة وهي طريقه إلى اليمن. So on the way back from Medina, he stops by Mecca, which is on the way to Yemen. حتى إذا كان بين عسفان وأمج أتاه نفر من هذيل من مدركة فقالوا له أيها الملك ألا ندلك على بيت مال داثر أغفلته الملوك قبلك فيه اللؤلؤ والزبرجد والياقوت والذهب والفضة قال بلى قالوا بيت بمكة يعبده أهله ويصلون عنده. He gets there, and remember, this is now very early, right? Before Abdul Muttalib, before everything else. He says, there is a place, you have an army. There's a place filled with pearls and jewels and other things. Was Zabarjad and all these other things. These gems. Okay? And gold and silver. You have an army. You can go take it all. Right? He says, tell me where it is. He says, it's a sacred building in Mecca, a temple in Mecca that people pray there, and you could take it. وإنما أراد الهذيليون هلاكه بذلك. Okay? لما عرفوا من هلاك من أراده من الملوك وبغى عنده. So he says here that those people, the Hudayl, who advised him, go to this place in Mecca, take all these jewels. What they were doing, in fact, was they wanted him dead. Because they knew that anybody who goes there is going to be destroyed. Like that house is a sacred space that nobody can aggress upon. So they're basically telling him to aggress upon it so that he can be destroyed. Okay? فلما أجمع لما قالوا أرسل إلى الحبرين فسألهما عن ذلك. So he says, so he decided he's going to go there. He's going to fight there. He's going to take over Mecca and take all this wealth and all these jewels. But first, let me ask my two sheikhs. Now that he's a Jew, he calls the two shuyukh. Of course, he's not going to be a Jew, but he's following them in the religion. Judaism is by lineage. So, فقال له ما أراد القوم إلا هلاك وهلاك جندك, or هلاك جندك. So your people, those people who advise you to do this, they're not advising you for your benefit. They want you dead. They wanted you to be destroyed. So they're advising you to go pick a fight with the Kaaba because they know something bad's going to happen to you. So even before Abdul Muttalib, this concept was around that this is a sacred space that's protected. ما نعلم بيتا لله اتخذه في الأرض لنفسه غيره. We do not know a single temple on the earth, a house on the earth, that Allah himself took for himself, in other words, to be worshipped at, except this one. As for the temple of the Bani Israel, they built it, right? But on the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing other than this one. Okay. And the Jews used to visit it. فَإِنْ وَلَئِنْ فَعَلْتَ مَا دَعَوْكَ إِلَيْهِ. If you do what they tell you to do, لَتَهْلِكَنَّ وَلَيَهْلِكَنَّ مَنْ مَعَكَ جَمِيعًا. You and everyone with you will be destroyed. قال فماذا تأمرانني أن أصنع إذا أنا قدمت عليه. So what do you advise me to do if I go there? قال تصنع عنده ما يصنع أهله. Do what your people do. تطوف وتعظمه وتكرمه. You make tawaf and honor the house and be generous there. وتحلق رأسك عنده, and shave your head. وتذل له حتى تخرج من عندي, and be humble as long as you're there until you leave. So what is the remnants of Prophet Ibrahim's ibadah? Is the tawaf and the shaving of the head. The sa'i developed, okay, yet the Prophet is the one who made this an obligation and a pillar of Hajj. There are 4 pillars of Hajj: Ihram, Tawaf, Sa'i, wal Wuquf bi'Arafah, Ba'd al-Maghrib. The little bit after Maghrib, that's the pillar of Hajj. If you miss any one of these 4, your Hajj is you didn't make Hajj. The staying at Arafah before Maghrib is an obligation, not a pillar. It can be obligations of Hajj. The 8 obligations of Hajj can be compensated. Okay. All right, so he does this. قال, he says, فَمَا يَمْنَعُكُمَا أَنْتُمَا مِنْ ذَلِكَ. So they say, we don't see you doing this. He says to them, I don't see you two doing this. Why don't you do it? Okay. قال, the 2 rabbis said, أما والله إنه لبيت أبينا إبراهيم وإنه لكما لكما أخبرناك ولكن أهله حالوا بيننا وبينه بالأوثان التي نصبوها حوله. It is the house of our forefather Abraham. However, its people, they obstruct us from going there because they put all of these idols there. وَالدِّمَاءَ الَّتِي يَهْرِقُونَ عِنْدَهُ, and they slaughter to these idols, and there's blood everywhere. وَهُوَ النَّجَسِ وَهُمْ أَهْلِ شِرْكٍ. There's najas everywhere, and these are people of shirk. Basically, they defiled it with paganism. Imagine today Hindus took over a mosque, right? There's going to be all sorts of things that would offend monotheists from going there and worshiping there. Because the Arabs were no different. Arabs and Indians were on the same path. They started off with some monotheism. The Brahmins declare monotheism. If you look deep into the Brahmin way, they declare that they're monotheists. And all these just symbolic gods and blah, blah, blah. Right? Well, same thing with the Arabs. They already know that there is Tawheed and there's one God and one creator, but they eventually then establish these symbolic or mediums between them and God. فعرف نصحهما وصدق حديثهما, so he recognized that they are honest and their nasiha is good. فقرب النفر من هذيل فقطع أيديهم وأرجلهم. So he went back to the people of Hudayl and said, oh, by the way, you're the ones who wanted me to do this. Yeah, did you do it? Are you going to do it? Yes. Come first. Cut their hands off, cut their feet off, and punish them severely because he realized that they're just trying to trick him. It's almost like telling somebody, why don't you go throw a rock at that window, okay, and go in the window and steal. You know that there's like a gang in there, right, that it's going to end, you're going to end up dead. That's exactly what they did to him. So he punished them. ثم مضى حتى قدم مكة. Then he went until he arrived at Mecca. فطاف بالبيت ونحر عنده. He made tawaf. He slaughtered for the sake of Allah. He حلق رأسه. All right. He shaved his head. وأقام بمكة 6 أيام ينحر بها للناس ويطعم أهله. Staying in the house, feeding the people, being righteous, being a righteous monotheist. That's what they had at the time. Okay. ويكسو البيت. Okay. ويطعم أهله ويسقيهم العسل, and he would give them from the honey that he had. Okay. وأري في المنام, he then has a dream. أن يكسو البيت. He saw a dream, you should cover the house with cloth. And that is the first time that the Kaaba is covered with cloth. And that's what we call the kiswa. Al-yaksu is to cover. Al-kiswa is the cover itself. فَكَسَاهُ الْخَصَفِ. Okay. He put a very thick cloth over the Kaaba. ثُمَّ أُرِيَ أَنْ يَكْسُوهُ أَحْسَنَ مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Then he saw a dream, put something better than some thick woolen cloth like this. فَكَسَاهُ الْمَلَاءُ وَالْوَصَائِلُ. He used then the thin Yemeni striped cloths, okay, instead, the expensive and valuable cloth, Okay, so he was the first one. Taban Abi Karb is the first one to do kiswa for the Kaaba. Okay. وكان تبع فيما يزعمون أول من كسى البيت. So Taban Tubba, same person. He is the first one to put a garment over the Kaaba. وأوصى به ولاته من Jurhum. He had allies up north of Mecca. Okay. And those are the Jurhum. The Jurhum tribe is north of Mecca. They used to be. Okay. They used to be the rulers of Mecca. But they were kicked out by Quraysh. And Jurhum, who else knows where Jurhum arrives in the Seerah? Omar? You know? Where else is Jurhum in the Seerah? The Prophet ﷺ is half Jurhum. His mother's from Jurhum. The tribe of north of Mecca, after the slaughter of Abdullah was stopped, then they went there, got arbitration. And the arbitrator said, slaughter 100 camels. Or the arbitration ended up that he's going to slaughter 100 camels. And Abdul Muttalib goes slaughters 100 camels. And everyone eats, and this is a big effort. Slaughter 100 camels, skinning 100 camels, giving all this away for free. Skins of 100 camels. Bones were used for arrows, for sticks, for hammers, for tools. Every piece of the animal is used. Okay? And the meat overflowed the people of Mecca that they had to go to the hills and call to the nomads, come and eat. And they would say, why are we eating? This is the slaughter of Abdul Muttalib to save his son Abdullah. So the name of Abdullah and Abdul Muttalib rang in every household at that time in Mecca and surrounding. After it was all done, Abdul Muttalib took his son and he said, let's go and do something for ourselves now. We'll get married. We have some friends in Jurhum and we'll go. So he was going for Abdullah to get married. Now we go to marry you off. He gets there and he finds the most suitable person for Abdullah is Amina, of course, mother of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. And the father then says, well, we also have her older sister. Husband, something happened, whatever. She's available for marriage for you, for Abdul Muttalib himself. So it ends up being Abdullah and Abdul Muttalib both getting married. And the product of Abdul Muttalib and this Jurhumi woman is Hamzah. And the product of Abdullah and of course is the Prophet ﷺ. That's how Hamzah and the Prophet ﷺ are so close, because they're related from the dads and the moms. They're cousins by the moms and uncle, nephew by the dads. Right? And that's why they were so close. Okay, and that's why immediately when Hamzah was hunting one day and came back, and he's heard the women from the family of Abdul Muttalib complaining and crying. And they said, what happened? They said, you should have seen how Abu Jahl insulted your cousin. Right. So he went to Abu Jahl right away without thinking. He had a camel bone in his hand and he smashed it over his head and he caused his head to bleed. And he said, you insult him and I'm on his religion? And that was the first tide that changed in the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ when Hamzah entered Islam. And Hamzah at that time had not examined or heard a verse of Quran, nor examined it, nor anything, except he knows who the Prophet is. He knows who his cousin and his nephew is. And it just took him, like the family bond got sort of inspired in him, and he just followed him. Right? No investigation. He knows who he is. That's the investigation. But he didn't investigate the message. Didn't think about it. So entrance into Islam can be in many different ways, including intimidation. Not that it's halal, but for example, in cases of war, it is. For example, Abu Sufyan entered Islam purely through intimidation of the new power. I can't resist this new power, so I just have to submit. So the Prophet ﷺ knew that the shahada of Abu Sufyan was with his tongue only. So the next day, the Prophet knew that his ego needs to be broken a bit more. So he said to al-Abbas, sit with Abu Sufyan at the top of a hill at the most narrow point, entry point of Mecca. Then he commanded all the soldiers, the whole army, okay, to make their lines thin. Make their lines really like 2 or 3 people only, right? And everyone erect a banner for your tribe. And then to march. And so the march was like forever, because you thinned out the army. Instead of all marching in at once, you thinned them out, and they were just marching. Tribe after tribe after tribe after tribe after tribe after tribe after tribe. Until Abu Sufyan was like, khalas, I'm drained. And give up. Completely gave up. Right? Because he realized how massive an army the Prophet ﷺ had garnered. So that's when he again took his shahada again after that, and then it was from his heart. And he fought for Islam and lost both of his eyes. Okay. A question here is saying, I've missed if you said it, but were the parents of the Prophet ﷺ Hanifs? The answer is yes. No parent of the Prophet ﷺ was a mushrik. Even Prophet Ibrahim, his father mentioned in the Quran is not his father, it's his uncle. And the Quran says ab, it does not say walid. And the ab refers to the uncle, and it refers to the father, and it refers to the grandfather, and it refers to any man who raised you. You can call him ab. Okay. So let's continue. وَأَمَرَهُمْ بِتَطْهِيرِهِ. So he commanded the Jurhum to always upkeep the kiswa and the cleanliness of the Kaaba. وَأَلَّا يَقْرَبُوهُ دَمًا وَلَا مَيْتَةً وَلَا مِئَالَةً. That there should be no blood of a human, no any kind of blood, no slaughtering, none of that near the Kaaba, because this blood is najis. وَجَعَلَ لَهُ بَابًا وَمِفْتَاحًا. And he's the one who established for it a door with a key. For that, it didn't have that. ثُمَّ خَرَجَ مِنْهَا مُتَوَجِّهًا إِلَى الْيَمَنِ. What are we talking about for those who are just coming? We're talking about the kings way before the Prophet ﷺ, who had received news of the prophecy that there is going to be a messenger coming. Okay. And it's really no different. That time was very no different than ours. Is it not commonplace that you talk to people and you all agree? You talked about the affairs of the world and you all come to a consensus that this is the end of time. Like, big things are going to happen soon, because this is untenable the way we're living now. Like in terms of the destruction of life in societies reaching such a boiling point, something has to happen. Right? So, in the same way that we have that talk now, they had that talk then, that there's going to be a new prophet coming and he's going to decisively separate between truth and falsehood and establish a new religious community. Okay. حتى إذا دخل اليمن دعا قومه إلى الدخول فيما دخل فيه. Finally, after all this, okay, he takes the 2 rabbis, he takes them with you. I want you to come with us so that you could be our educators. He goes down to Yemen, okay, and he comes upon his people. Now, remember, he left with the intent to destroy Medina because you killed one of my sons, Yathrib. He ends up becoming a convert to monotheism. And on the way back, now, you can imagine, news didn't spread that quickly. So our king and his army are gone for so long. They come back. What's the news? Where's the spoils of war? What do you have for us? What did you do? What are the stories now? We need to hear all the stories. So it was exciting when someone came in the old days. Today, someone comes in, you already know what happened, right? Someone in the family goes on a trip to China. Before he comes back, you read minute by minute these days. You get the minute by minute. Okay? The whole world now. You can get the minute by minute, except for some isolated countries that you may go to. But nonetheless, as soon as you get into the airport or any city, you get to download everything before they even arrive back. So he arrives back now. They get the shock of their lives. No more paganism. He's canceling paganism, establishing Tawheed. Okay? And he gives them a speech and he invites them all to accept what he accepted. فأبوا عليه حتى يحاكموه إلى النار التي كانت باليمن. They refused. And they had a fire in Yemen. وكانت نار تحكم بينهم فيما يختلفون فيه تأكل الظالم وتضر المظلوم ولا تضر المظلوم. And they had at that time a fire in which they believed it was sacred and it was holy and it was the remnants of the ancient times that would judge for them. You put your hand in it, it either burns you or it doesn't. If it burns you, you're guilty. It doesn't burn you, you're not guilty. Okay? So, interesting stuff. This is the ancient times here we're talking. All right? وكانت نار تحكم بينهم تأكل الظلم فخرج قومه بأوثانهم وما يتقربون به في دينهم. They all came out with all their sacred stuff, their idols and everything. وخرج الحبراني, the two Jewish rabbis. Remember, this is before the prophet, so this is the closest you're going to get. Okay? It's not 100% truth, but it's the closest you're going to get. They came out with their masahif, their Torah, all right, they hanging things on their neck, all right, and all the things that they hold sacred. حتى قعدوا للنار عند مخرجها التي تخرج منها. They sat with it by the fire. فخرجت النار إليهم فلما أقبلت نحوهم حادوا عنها وهابوها فذمرهم من حضرهم من الناس وأمروهم بالصبر عليها. All of a sudden, they come up close to this fire and this fire comes out towards them. Okay? So they ran away. They said, no, you have to sit here and wait. Okay, to see what happens. فصبروا حتى غشيتهم فأكلت الأوثان وما قربوا معه ومن حمل من ذلك من رجال حمير وخرج الحبراني بمصاعبهم في أعناقهم تعرف جباههم لم تضرهما فقط عند ذلك حمير على دينه. So at that point, the pagan priests sat, the rabbis sat, and the fire started to come out and stopped right in front of the rabbis, but it ate up. It started to burn away at the idols and the priests. So the people then knew that the way of pagans is wrong and the way of monotheism is correct. And that's how Himyar entered into Judaism. And they became Jews. Okay. فمن هنالك وعن ذلك كان أصل اليهودية باليمن. They are converts. There's no mention of a bloodline there. They're converts into Judaism. فلما ملك ابنه حسان بن تبان أسعد سار بأهل اليمن يريد أن يطأ بهم أرض العرب وأرض الأعاجم حتى إذا كانوا بأرض البحرين كرهت حمير وقبائل اليمن المسير معه وأرادوا الرجعة إلى بلادهم وأهلهم فكلموا أخا له يقال له عمرو وكان معه في جيشه فقالوا له اقتل أخاك حسان ونملكك علينا وترجع بنا إلى بلادنا فأجابهم فاجتمعوا على ذلك إلا ذا رعين الحميري فإنه نهاه عن ذلك فلم يقبل منه فقال ذو رعين ألا من يشتري سهرا بنوم سعيد من يبيت قرير عين فإما حمير عذرت وخانت فمعذرة الإله الذي رعين ثم كتبهما في رقعة وختم عليها ثم أتى بها عمرا فقال له ضع لي هذا الكتاب عندك ففعل ثم قتل عمرو أخاه حسان ورجع بمن معه إلى اليمن. All right, so now what happens next? That king lives happily ever after. Okay. His son Hassaan rules. Hassaan becomes ambitious and he wants to travel with the army throughout all the lands of the Arabs and he wants to go up to Persia and he wants to see what he can take and see the world. They do all this, they get exhausted from his travels. And they say, enough is enough, let's go back to Yemen. He says, no, we're going to keep going. So what do? They go to his brother. They say, don't you want to be king? We'll give you the bay'ah, finish us of this Hassaan. So he does. He kills his brother and he becomes king. Now it's Amr ibn Taban. فلما نزل عمرو بن تبان اليمن منع منه النوم وسلط عليه السهر فلما جهده ذلك سأل الأطباء والحزاة من الكهان والعرافين عما به فقال له قائل منهم إنه والله ما قتل رجل قط أخاه أو ذا رحمه بغيا على مثل ما قتلت أخيك عليه إلا ذهب نومه وسلط عليه السهر فلما قيل له ذلك جعل يقتل كل من أمره بقتل أخيه حسان من أشراف اليمن حتى خلص إلى ذي رعين فقال له ذو رعين إن لي عندك براءة فقال وما هي قال الكتاب الذي دفعت إليك فأخرجه فإذا فيه البيتان فتركه وراء أنه قد نصحه. All right, so what next with this king? He gets back to Yemen and he can't sleep, he can't eat, he's miserable. He goes and he calls all the doctors, he calls all the medicine men, he calls all the priests, anyone who knows anything, and he says, what's with me? They said, no man kills his brother, no man kills a relative, except Allah curses him with anxiety. Okay, so he regrets killing his brother, and what does he do to compensate? He goes back to all the people who plotted this, and he kills them all, except the one man, Ruhain, who was against it. All right, so he kills them all. And then he lives as king. وهلك عمرو فمرج أمر حمير عند ذلك وتفرقوا. Amr dies early, and there's no king after him. And the affair of Himyar breaks up. They break up. They're no longer one simple monarchy. What are we reading from today? We're reading from Tahdhib Sirat Ibn Hisham. Yep. Tahdhib Sirat Ibn Hisham. Right. فوثب, almost done with this chapter. فوثب عليهم رجل من حمير لم يكن من بيوت المملكة يقال له لخنيع ينوف ذو شناتر فقتل خيارهم وعبث ببيوت أهل المملكة منهم. So a man comes, لخنيع, and he takes over. وكان لخنيع أمرا فاسقا, okay, يعمل عمل قوم لوط. Okay, here, put this in your LGB history. Lakhniya is gay. Okay, they're always looking for scraping for some historical reference point. Here, he was a filthy man, they say here in the book. Hey, I'm not saying it, don't cancel me. He's saying, I'm just quoting. Okay, وكان لخنيعة, okay, فاسقة يعمل عمل قوم لوط. He was a homosexual. فبعث إلى زرعة ذي نواس من تبان أسعد أخي حسان وكان صبيا صغيرا حين قتل حسان ثم شب غلاما وسيما ذا هيئة وعقل. So what does he do? He conquers now. This gay man conquers all of the scattered country now, takes over, and he now calls for the one who actually is the rightful king. The youngest brother of these two brothers, Amr, Hassaan and Amr, they had a younger brother, so he calls him in. He wants to see the person who is the rightful heir, because that's your first threat. The rightful heir is your first threat, right? So he calls him in. Who comes in? Lo and behold, a young man, handsome, well-dressed, well-kept, intelligent. فَلَمَّا أَتَاهُ رَسُولُهُ عَرَفَ مَا يُرِيدُ مِنْهُ فأخذ سكينا حديدا لطيفا فخبأه بين قدمه ونعله ثم أتاه فلما دخل معه وثب إليه فواثبه ذو نواس فوجع حتى قتله ثم خرج على الناس فقالوا ما ينبغي أن يملكنا غيرك إذ أرحتنا من هذا الخبيث فملكوه واجتمعت عليه حمير وقبائل اليمن فكان آخر ملوك حمير وهو صاحب الأخدود فأقام في ملكه زمانا. Okay. So the messenger got this young boy and saw him, and he said, oh, you're in trouble. You're handsome, you're young, and the king is now gay. All right. So he says, listen. Okay. Take this knife. He took the knife. Okay. And he's the one who should be king, right? He took the knife. He went in onto this king, and as soon as the king made his move, he killed him. Okay. He is, what's the word? Homophobic. Okay. Hey, the kid's about to get raped. I think he has the right to defend himself. So they said, no, you're our king now. Back to the family. Right. وكان بنجران بقايا من أهل دين عيسى بن مريم عليه السلام. In Najran, nearby, a little north of them, there were Christians. So now you have Jews and Christians in Yemen. أهل فضل واستقامة, upright and good people. لهم رأس يقال له عبد الله ابن الثامر. Their leader at the time was called Abdullah ibn الثامر. فسار إليهم ذو نواس بجنوده فدعاهم إلى اليهودية. Okay. He then goes there and says, no, become Jews. Choose Judaism. This handsome one who killed the homosexual king, okay, he now goes to the Christians and says, come and become Jews. They said, no. How could we be Jews? We're one step ahead of you. Have Christ. Oh, he got angry with them. He looked around. He said, we're stronger than you. You have palm trees and you're farmers. We travel the world and we conquer. We are tough. We're strong. You either become Jews or I kill you all. They said, what? He told his army, dig ukhdud, dig ditches. And this is where Surat al Buruj, Ashab al-Ukhdud, is him. Okay? Not only he's killed the gay king, now he's going to do a genocide. And he says, Christians, you either become Jews or all of you are going to be killed. Okay? This is like a reverse version. Because it's the Jews doing it this time, not getting it done to them. By Ashab al-Ukhdud, by the way, this is not something abnormal. This was in all places at that period of time and maybe a couple hundred years before. Everywhere, if the minority got on the nerves of the majority, the king would just dig a ditch and just basically kill them all. So Ashab al-Ukhdud, if you read the tafsir, the Jews were killed by pagans. Christians were killed by Jews. Christians were killed by pagans. Okay, so people and any tribe that was just deemed you're a problem for us. We don't like you. And you're a minority, you can't defend yourself. The people back then would dig these ditches, light them on fire. This is from the time way back, hundreds of years. This was the habit of nations, right? And they would just finish the entire tribe in one day. The entire minority that you have a problem with will be just killed in one day. Life was vicious back then. Okay. So those are أصحاب الأخدود. فحرق من حرق بالنار وقتل بالسيف ومثل بهم حتى قتل منهم قريبا من 20,000. 20,000 people. He backspaced them. He literally highlight, delete. No, that's not it. It's just Control Alt. Right? Select the whole thing and delete. 20,000 people he killed. Want to move it? Huh? ففي ذي نواس ذلك وجنده أنزل الله تعالى على رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم قتل أصحاب الأخدود النار ذات الوقود إذ هم عليها قعود وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود وما نقموا منهم إلا أن يؤمنوا بالله العزيز الحميد. Okay. You accept Jesus and you're not going to be Jews, we're going to kill you. and Surat al Buruj was revealed for them. ويقال كان في من قتل ذو نواس عبد الله بن الثامر رأسهم وإمامهم. Their chief went down with them, and that's the way for a chief to go. It's not for a chief to, not appropriate for a chief to flee while his people get killed. So the chief went down. وأفلت منهم رجل من سبأ يقال له دوس ذو ثعلبان على فرس له فسلك الرمل فأعجزهم فمضى على وجهه ذلك حتى أتى قيصر ملك الروم فاستنصره على ذي نواس وجنوده فأخبره بما بلغ منهم. So the Dhu Nawas, remember now who Dhu Nawas is. He is the third son of the first character we talked about. First character we talked about is Tubba, who went up to destroy Yathrib and ends up becoming a monotheist and a Jew. Comes down, makes Yemen Jews, converts them to Judaism. Then his three sons rule. One is the rightful ruler. Then the next, Hassaan. Then Amr kills Hassaan. Then Amr dies. Then Lakhni'a takes over, the homosexual king of Yemen. Okay? Netflix movie coming up soon. Okay. Then he gets killed. He hardly ruled, right? He takes over. Then he calls the biggest threat. And when the messenger sees that he's a young, handsome young man, gives him a knife, protect yourself, you're about to get raped. Okay? He goes in, and this person was quick on his feet. Right? He kills the gay king. And then he goes, and I guess he kills on his first day as king, so killing is his habit now. He goes to Najran, sees the Christians there. They refuse to become Jews. He kills all of them. And he takes over Najran. So now word of this king is spreading everywhere. Until some people, they go up to the Byzantine lands, the Roman lands, the Byzantine lands. And they start complaining, like, we need help. This guy is, he's too much. Okay. Okay. He says, a man goes there and says, we're far from you, but we have, okay, we're too far. The Roman says, like, where's Byzantine? Where's Rome? Right? I mean, Yemen. When we say the Rum, we mean the edges of the Roman Empire, which is like Syria, Jerusalem, those parts. Romans ruled there. The Romans being the Byzantines. The Byzantines are Romans. When the Germanic tribe took over Rome and Rome became a mess, they all picked up shop, and they packed up and they went over, and the best piece of land that they found was Anatolia, and they started Constantinople. So Constantinople, the Byzantine, is the new Rome. It's an extension of the same Roman kings and Roman emperors. Okay, so this Roman emperor says, it's too far. بعدت بلادك منا ولكني سأكتب لك إلى ملك الحبشة. We have friends, Christian friends. Where are they? Habasha, Ethiopia. Good kingdom there, strong Christians. All right. And since you're saying that this guy, Dhu Nawas, he slaughtered our brethren in Christianity, we'll get the payback. We can't do it, but our friends will do it. So he writes a letter. He says, go, the Byzantine king Christian sends to the Ethiopian Christian, go help our people. They just got genocided, basically. He tells him, go help them. Okay. فَقَدِمَ دَوْسٌ عَلَى النَّجَاشِي بِكِتَابِ قَيْصَرٍ. He goes, Dose is the name of this messenger. He takes the letter and he goes down to Ethiopia. All right. And he sees the Najashi is the name of their kings. And Najashi, we know, some people think that Najashi is someone's name. No, it just means the king. Ethiopian word for king. Okay, we can ask Noah if that's exactly what it is. Okay. فَقَدِمَ دَوْسٌ. Dose is the man who went to complain. على النجاشي بكتاب قيصر فبعث معه 70,000 من الحبشة. 70,000 soldiers. وأمر عليهم رجلا منهم يقال له أرياط ومعه في جنده أبرهة الأشرم. Okay. So the ruler, the general was Aryat. And Aryat goes to Yemen now to get revenge from Dhu Nawas for this massacre of 20,000 Christians. Okay. Aryat gets on the ships and they cross the sea and they get to Yemen, from East Africa to Yemen. ومعه دوس ذو ثعلبان وسار إليه ذو نواس في حمير ومن أطاعه من قبائل اليمن فلما التقوا انهزم ذو نواس وأصحابه. Dhu Nawas goes now to fight, and they lost the battle. Okay. And when Dhu Nawas saw all of this, and he saw the blood, and he saw the bloodshed and all the loss, okay, at the beach, they fought at the beach. Oh, this is a great movie. A war on the beach now, right? A war at the beach. I mean, if you're creative, you could you could do a lot with this. Like, you can make a series of movies with this. You got massacres, you got a gay king, you got so much, you got brother killing brother. This is drama, okay? You got a lot of stuff going on here. So they fought at the beach, and Dhu Nawas sees he's lost his kingdom. So what does he do? He strikes his horse and runs into the ocean, okay, until he died. Okay? He doesn't even want to see life after losing the battle. And the Habasha, the Ethiopians, have taken over Yemen. Okay. Taken over Yemen. وَدَخَلَ أَرْيَاطِ الْيَمَنِ فَمَلَّكَهَا, or فَمَلِكَهَا. He became, Aryat is now the king, the Ethiopian king of Yemen. Okay. فَأَقَامَ أَرْيَاطُ. You want more, or should we stop here? We've been reading now for almost an hour. Well, now, yeah, no, we're almost done. We're almost done. This is now we get to see, how does Abraha take over? Aryat is now king of Yemen. How does Abraha take over? فقام أرياط بأرض اليمن سنين في سلطانه ذلك. He's king of Yemen now. He's ruling Yemen, and years pass. Okay. ثم نازعه في أمر الحبشة باليمن أبرهة الحبشي حتى تفرقت الحبشة عليهما. Abraha al-Ashram is a Christian. He is a scholar. They're all Christians, but he's a scholar. And he's a general, and he's ambitious. He rises in the ranks, and he gains a little following until he's like a snake. He gains a following until he's strong enough to face off with Aryat himself. Okay? And he splits the army. He gets half of the people to follow him, okay, out of the army. All right. فَانْحَازَ إِلَى كُلِّ وَاحِدٍ مِّنْهُمَا طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْهُمْ. Now, the army's split. Some people want Abraha to take over, and some people are saying, we have a ruler, Aryat is our ruler. فَلَمَّا تَقَارَبَ النَّاسُ أَرْسَلَ أَبْرَهَةُ إِلَى أَرْيَاطَ. When it reached a boiling point that now we have two loyalties here. You know, Aryat, is he asleep or what? One of your generals is cooking up all this behind your back. You're not aware. Like, you have to be perceptive. So clearly he wasn't. He was apparently fooled. So Abraha now is strong enough. He writes a letter to Aryat. Okay. إِنَّكَ لَا تَصْنَعُ بِأَنْ تَلْقَى الْحَبَشَةُ بَعْضُهَا بِبَعْضٍ حَتَّى تَفْنِيَهَا شَيْئًا فَابْرُزْ إِلَيَّ. He says, Abraha writes him, says, we're not going to have a civil war. We're already a minority ruling over these Arabs. We're not having a civil war. We're going to have a duel, me and you. Okay, me and you. فَابْرُزْ إِلَيَّ وَأَبْرُزْ إِلَيْكَ فَأَيُّنَا أَصَابَ صَاحِبُهُ صَرَفَ إِلَيْهِ جُنْدَهُ. Instead of having a civil war, we'll have a duel. Aryat says, fine. He agrees. Psh, weak. Weak. Wait, you are the rightful ruler, right? Why would you accept? Okay? This type of thing. Abraha goes out, and Abraha was short and slow, fat. He was heavy set. Okay? All right? But he was a scholar in Christianity, and he had zealots around him. They were like zealots. Okay? Aryat comes out, and was tall, okay, and more handsome than Abraha. So if you have a duel with swords, who's going to win? The short arms or the long arms, right? The guy with long arms should win in a duel with swords. It's not a duel with guns, okay? So he then says, وَفِي يَدِهِ حَرْبَةٌ. He used to fight with a long spear. Remember, the Habasha, they used to use the spears. He has a long spear, okay? So what happened? Subhanallah. Abraha cheats. He cheats. He takes a boy behind him. So he comes with two to the duel, not one. He takes a smaller boy behind him. خلف أبرهة غلام له يقال له عتودة يمنع ظهره فرفع أرياط الحرب فضرب أبرهة يريد نافوخه فوقعت الحربة على جبهة أبرهة فشرمت حاجبه وأنفه وعينه وشفته فبذلك سمى أبرهة الأشرم وحمل عتودة على أرياط من خلف أبرهة فقتله وانصرف جند أرياط إلى أبرهة فاجتمعت عليه الحبشة باليمن. So Abraha knows I can't win in a duel. Now, why would you expect Abraha to be fair when he's a rebel? Right? The whole affair is unfair. So why would you think he's going to be fair here? So they come out, and immediately Aryat takes the spear, and he doesn't spear him like this, he strikes him with it. And it strikes, and he tries to avoid it, but he can't fully avoid it, and he scrapes his face. It cuts his nose, it cuts his lips, it cuts his chin, okay? And he falls over, right? But there's a boy there with a knife, and he stabs Aryat. Because Aryat's not expecting another boy to be there, or another soldier to be there. So Abraha, the whole affair is a revolution, and the duel is unjust too. But everyone accepts it, and they all join Abraha, and he's called al-Ashram because of that scar that he had across his face. Okay. And that's how Ibn Hisham begins his seerah, with these stories about the ancient kings who knew that there's a prophet coming, and how is it that Abraha ends up as king of the Arabs, of Yemen, and this affair is going to lead to, of course, Ashab al-fil, and how they're going to go up to Mecca. And this is really what ends up making the big change in Arabia, because once the Muslims go, once the birds come and protect the Haram, no tribe, two things happen. No tribe of the Arabs disagrees that Quraysh is the elite tribe. That's number one. No tribe disagrees with the Kaaba anymore as being the most sacred space. And all the tribes don't want to fight Quraysh, so they now host Quraysh. Whenever Quraysh is traveling north and south, that saves Quraysh a lot of money on security. They never get robbed. They don't have to secure their belongings anymore. Every tribe hosts them and wants to marry from them, so their lineage spreads far and wide. And when their path north and south for trade suddenly becomes tax-free, security-free, everything's paid for, they made a lot of money. So the wealth of Quraysh that the Prophet ﷺ, when the Prophet is now 30 and 40, and he sees the wealth divide, where is the source of that wealth? Is after Qissat al-fil. The elephant story of the elephant happens, and no one in Arabia ever wants to mess with the Arabs anymore, so they now welcome them. That's also what Ibn Abbas says, is after this incident, all the families wanted to marry from Quraysh. So the lineage of Quraysh literally went everywhere. All Arabs have the lineage of Quraysh in them, and they prospered greatly, all from that story. Okay. So Abraha, if he was a man who understood signs, he should take a sign here that your monarchy is not going to be really that good if it starts off with getting sliced in the face, because that's a very bad omen. The sliced in the face is a very bad omen. So we'll stop here, and we'll start shifting to other segments of our podcast and our program. Where are we at today? Let's do a little bit of let's get a little bit of housekeeping. Summer term has begun. And what do we have in the summer term? Sheikh Nuh Saunders Tafsir class on Arkview Plus. So sign up for Arkview Plus, Sheikh Nuh Saunders, and Sharh Jawharat al-Tawheed with Sheikh Usama, plus many, many, many other classes. And then Arkview Basic, we have a pilot program for Hifdh. If you want your kids to be involved in Hifdh, all right, but you also want them to learn Seerah, to learn Fiqh, you can do it all now at Arkview Basic, okay, which is only $10 a month, so you could sign up for all of that. Hifdh, Seerah, Fiqh, everything for just 10 quid a month, or $10 a month, or the British say quid. Okay. All right. What else do we have? You can support this stream by going to patreon.com/Safina Society. You go to patreon.com/Safina Society, then you can support the live stream, and you can help us continue this. Okay, what's the youngest age for Hifdh? I think if he could sit carefully, or sit, through the lesson, I think he'll be. I can't put it by age, but I could put it by a discipline, right? If a kid sits carefully, or pays attention, then he could do the Hifdh. SoundCloud apparently has changed its logo from orange to black. I don't understand why. They were known by orange. Is it a good branding move or not?
Everyone's about the minimalistic look these days.
Minimalistic, yeah. I get they were two colors, or one color, orange, right? It sticks out, right? But why would they just change it to black?
More minimalist.
Even more minimalist, huh? Subhanallah. Huh?
They made the name as an orange.
Yeah. And when I look at it, I just look for the orange blob on the app.
Everything's starting to look dystopian.
Yeah.
McDonald's, they made it look like.
What is it now?
Like the McDonald's are so like plain.
Yeah.
And like all the fast food restaurants. Like Taco Bell. You
Yeah.
see like a from the outside.
Yeah.
You see the purple.
Yep. All right, we got the word from Noah. It's from the ancient Gez. Negus, pronounced Negus. Negus. Yep. So there we go. Other housekeeping items? Is there anything else that we need to discuss before we move on to Q&A? All right, let's. Someone here says, Muslim Corner says, Abraha was a right winger and Aryat was a liberal, who is accepting. He's accepting this, right? This is a revolution against you. Abraha should not live to see a day. He doesn't get a chance. He doesn't get a hearing. He doesn't get a duel, right? He's a rebel. He should be killed. He's a weak liberal, he says. Can't disagree with that. All right, let's open it up now. Monday we usually do a longer Q&A, and if there's any other issues, any other books we want to read from, we'll do that. So let's kick it off. We have guests here from England, from Bradford, England. So how was Bradford in the summer? Good. Bradford, England is the home of Sheikh Ibrahim A.S. Here, just tighten it up with the. I don't know if you have these things in Bradford. Look, just tighten the. Yeah, just tighten it so it doesn't fall on you. Bradford, England, first of all, has a gorgeous park, and it's generally as a city prettier than Birmingham. Doesn't have as many shuyukh and masajid, but it's prettier city if we're going to compare. Both of them have very densely populated Muslim societies. Bradford had a college there that went out of business. And Sheikh Ibrahim A.S.'s organization, although Sheikh Ibrahim lives in Liverpool, but his organization put the bid out and won the bid, and they now are the.
So that was the old business school.
It was old business school.
So
Yeah.
the Bradford University, I went there, so that was still open. I think you said on one of the pods that they bought the university. They didn't buy the university. University still
Oh,
standing.
the university. Oh,
Yeah,
only the
so-
business
so
school.
it's just the business school. That they
Okay,
bought.
only the business
Yeah.
school is what they own.
Yeah, that campus.
It's a massive
About
campus.
14.5 acres or something.
40?
14 and a half.
14 and a half
something
acres,
like
a
that.
lot of buildings,
A lot of grass.
and it's something that is the architecture is really old.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful building now.
Gothic.
And they prayed Jummah. I prayed Jummah with them there.
Yeah. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, old Gothic style buildings. So there's a lot of activity you could do there because the population is very densely populated with Muslims. Like when I went to the campus center, it was pretty quiet because it was summertime, right? But everyone at the desk, the security, everyone was a Muslim there. Like England, there's a new type of country that I would say, which is not a Muslim country, but it's now Islamically friendly. This is not a legal category, but it's a experiential category, just like Muslim friendly countries. And I could tell you that England has really, it's there already. And here is the litmus test. If you can literally pray anywhere without being looked at or harassed. I was next to Big Ben, and we needed to pray. There's a park next to Big Ben. We just put out some, clothes that we had, and we just prayed on it. No one bats an eye. People walk by. They don't even bat an eye, right? Scotland Yard, down by, I think it's by the water somewhere. Scotland Yard headquarters has a lawn next to it. Put my stuff. I just prayed. No one bats an eye. Halal food, never have to look. There's no such thing as where's their ears halal restaurant. There's always halal food everywhere. So I would say that's where you get the feeling that it's not a Muslim country, but it's a very Muslim friendly country. And I think the United States eventually is going to get to that. Not by population, but enough people will come to respect Muslims that will have a place here. And how does a people have a place in a country? Is when enough people in that country, their hearts accept you, right? And enough people, number one, they're accepting Islam, and number two, they're accepting of Muslims. That's becoming something that we see. And in England, it's not even that people have a choice anymore to accept Muslims because the numbers are so high to the point, not that you have a choice like you're being a jerk and not giving them a choice. No, you don't have a choice to accept people when their population's that high. You just have to get accustomed to it. Right. And also discrimination, it's possible to do when you really don't deal with a lot of a certain group of people. Right. You want me to move this again? But when you deal with so many different types of those people, discrimination in your mind becomes silly. Right. So if I deal with, let's say, Hindus, and deal with a lot of Hindus, hypothetically, it's just silly for someone to say, oh, Hindus are like this. Well, there's so many different ones. And I've seen that they're all different in their thing that you can't paint them. So when you don't deal with the people, it's easy to paint them all with a brush and push and dismiss them. But when I'm going to see them every single day, right? You don't do that anymore. And that's what's happening now with Muslims. It's probably very hard for anyone in England, except for trying to be a right winger, to make a broad statement about Muslims, because everybody will deal with many types of Muslims, practicing and not practicing Muslims. And that's where you get to be.
It's far more comfortable than other places in Europe.
Oh, yeah, far more
I went
comfortable.
to Italy, France, and there were people playing on the bench doing ishara, and I said, there's a park there, why don't you just get your masala, why don't you just pray?
Yeah.
And he said he felt, that they discriminate against, and he was working, a migrant worker. And he was just praying with, using his head and ishara, and that's it. On the bench, like still like a statue. And in England, we would just get them. We just people looking at you.
I thought the same thing when I went to Spain.
They're really against it, huh?
Yeah, it's more uncomfortable in Spain than it is in the US.
I mean, I went to the
It's
mosque.
worse. They're think about it. They have a history.
In Cordoba
Right.
and Granada, when we got tickets to go into the mosque, they said they knew because lihya, and they knew we were Muslim, and they're just like, this no mosque, no pray, in broken English, no pray here, because they know people did it. But I think Sidi Mu'adh did the azan there. I saw a video of that, and he didn't get stopped.
No, they're totally they have that, they're continuing that history, and it's revived recently. Their history of hatred. Spain are from the original Crusaders. The French and the Spanish are the original Crusaders. So we shouldn't expect any love from them. But Spain, I think, just the population, both of them have the population, but Spain, they haven't been as aggressive as the French. Right? You get the feeling that in the air is a coming serious conflict in France, because the numbers are just tilting too much, and the Muslims there, they got the toughest ones. They got the Algerians, right? Yeah. And Palestinians are tough. You haven't seen Algerians. Like, they're equally tough as Palestinians. If they had Egyptians, for example, you wouldn't have any problems, right? they will melt into the population. All right. Show me one place where Egyptians went and caused trouble. Right? They don't cause trouble. Egypt. Egypt is the biggest place that caused trouble. And when Caesar came, they made him Caesar before he came. Before he even landed in Egypt, they had crowned him as Caesar. Like, anyone who comes to conquer, they don't put up a fight of conquerors, let alone be a minority and put up a fight. But the French, they're tested. They got the Algerians, they got the West Africans. So, but I feel bad for them, because after all that happened and that rioting and all that, it's all going to come back against them. Now the French are going to crack down way harder now than ever before. So we haven't seen that yet, right? But there's going to come some issue, and they're going to crack down way harder, right? So Mini Star says there's subtle racism towards hijabis in the UK, but it's not often. Yep, I'm sure that it'll always be, but it's just something that they would have to hide it. Even the people who want to have that racism against them or this discrimination, they would have to hide it.
I mean, I had a friend who's a chartered accountant, and they went for like a meal, like a work meal, like a social kind of thing. Yeah. And he had some juice or something. He said it tasted horrible. Yeah. He found out that one of his co-workers had put alcohol in it.
Oh, really?
And he was so disgusted. He told the manager straight away, got fired. The person fired.
Wow, for spiking the Muslim drink.
Yeah,
wow,
no reference, nothing. That's it. Dismissed.
Dismissed, subhanAllah. That's crazy.
So they really, in the professional world, if you discriminate,
they're not going to tolerate it.
No.
Not going to tolerate it. And that's why, as I said, that it's not a justification or a support of some of these Muslim presidents and MPs and whatever they are, prime ministers or whatever. But Allah does have a wisdom in everything that he does. And Allah does not have to obey the Sharia when he spreads the truth. Okay? Allah can spread the truth how he wants. There are people on the fringes of the society when it comes to interaction with Muslims. But when they look up and they say, hold on, the president of the country is a Pakistani Muslim. And he doesn't know what a difference between a liberal and a not liberal is. He just sees a Pakistani Muslim as president. The head of London, or the mayor of London, is a Pakistani with a Muslim name, right? Those people on the edges, they get affected by that. They realize, okay, these people are here. They're in our country, right? They're part of our country, whether we like it or not. So Allah does have a wisdom in all these things. And that may be one of the wisdoms, is that you get people who are so far from dealing with Muslims, that living in these little hamlet towns. But when they see the president of the country is a Muslim, it's going to affect them. It's going to make them realize, all right, they're here. They're probably here to stay. Okay. Abdul Hadi says, at what point does a joke become mockery of the Deen? Like if someone calls a pair of dad sandals the Jerusalem Sevens. I don't think we should go to any mockery. All jokes related to the Deen, I would assume we should stay away from. And the question would be, at what point would they put us out of Islam? That's the question. I think we should avoid all types of jokes, right? But the question is, at what point does the joke earn us some lashes and ridda and we have to redo our shahada because it could reach that. Any joke about prophets, any joke about anything like that is about Sahaba, put you out of Islam. Let me read a little bit from this book here. And that's what we do on this stream. We read different works and enrich our minds with them. The Divine for Critical Minds, Inquiry into God's Existence. Why I love this book? Everything is essentially 1 to 2 page sections. What is logic and why should we use it? Logic is a branch of philosophy that helps us arrive at the right answer. That's why earlier on another stream I said this nonsense with Greek logic that some Salafi kids parrot all the time. It's nonsense. You will see logic in our works. Nothing of the Greek beliefs has entered the works of Islam as mainstream texts that we study. Nothing, not one. You're not going to see one. When someone says Greek logic, it means it would the assumption there is logic based upon the Greek order or Greek beliefs, logic within their Greek beliefs. So what is Usul al-Fiqh? It's the logic of Islamic law, the sources of Islamic law, and the logic of how to go through them and extract a ruling. Okay. Hindu logic. What would Hindu logic be? It would be whatever the baseline structure of existence is to a Hindu, right? Logic within that would be Hindu logic. Okay. So for someone to say Greek logic, what that means is that assumptions that the Greeks have, beliefs, pure beliefs that they had about the world and the universe, and then the logic within that. You don't find any of that in the mainstream works of Ahlul Sunnah. But why they go back to the Greeks is that the Greeks were the first authors on logic. Well, in medicine, probably non-Muslims were the first people who wrote books on medicine, right? Who were the first people to Hippocrates? Okay. So if I now study medicine, am I studying Greek medicine? Not necessarily. Just because he wrote about medicine and he's the first person who is famous for this. So likewise, the Greeks are the first people who became famous for writing about mantiq. Okay. Even if I were to read Hippocrates, does not mean that I'm accepting all of his dictums. Even if I were to read the books of Aflaton, right? Socrates, Plato, and Socrates, and Aristotle, and all these people, right? Read them. That doesn't mean I'm accepting all their premises. That's the thing. All right. So he says here that logic is a branch of philosophy that helps us arrive at the right answer. McKernany, author of the concise work Being Logical, A Guide to Good Thinking, defines it as it is essentially about the truth. For truth to be known in any reliable way, we must carefully follow the rules of logic and avoid its fallacies. One of the best ways to study logic is to study fallacies. Okay? Study different types of fallacies that exist in people's thinking. Yes, truth can be discovered in an illogical manner. We can correctly guess that 2 + 2 is 4, right? Because it feels good, or we guessed a number of numbers and we eventually got it right. Okay? So guessing, feeling, this is where the lazy don't want to think or take responsibility, so they go to superstitions, or they ask a soothsayer, or they find any darb bil azlam. Darb bil azlam, for example, let me just point my finger, and if the first letter to my finger is a Y, that's a yes. If it's an N, then it's a no. Right? This is darb bil azlam. So it's laziness in arriving at the truth. It's lazy ways of getting to the truth. Just like gambling is a lazy way to make money. Okay. So you could possibly, rationally, it's rationally possible that you arrive at the truth in an illogical manner. Feelings, superstitions, etc. Guessing. All right. But you would never be sure that you have arrived to the truth. We had no way of having certainty in our position or in correcting it when it's a mistake, nor would we be able to justify our position. Okay. A man once told me that he's about to make a deal, a big financial deal. And he's looking around for things to help him come to the right, to be sure he's right. And he came upon a PDF on some website it's called the Al-Istikhara bil-Quran. And I read this, and it said, you open the Mus'haf, and you point with your finger. If it's an ayah of rahmah, talks about Jannah, you keep reading until you come upon the first ayah that talks about either rahmah or adhab, mercy or punishment. If it's mercy, that's one. You do this 3 times. Mercy is a yes, punishment is a no. You do it 3 times, and whatever comes first 2 times is your answer. I'm like, brother, is this a 7-game series or what? Right? And who picked the 3-game series, right? Want to make it a 7-game series like the rest of the playoffs, right? So I said, brother, this is Darb al-Islam. It's guessing. And I said to him, you go to your investors when they ask you, why did you make the deal? And tell them, I opened my holy book to 3 verses. You're never going to have another investor again, right? No, I said, you pray istikhara with every nafilah even that you want to pray istikhara, and keep doing istishara, and keep using your own intellect to come to the decision. Okay? And he was like, oh, thank you so much, because I thought this was the way we do things. Okay. He then says, if intelligence cannot be reliably used by intelligent beings to investigate God, then it means thinking about God's existence is an exercise in futility. Think about this. We're intelligent human beings. And we make decisions using our intellect. You make a decision based on what your family budget should be, how much you should spend on rent, how much you should spend on cars. You make your decision on how to go to Hajj, how much money am I going to spend. You make your decision on, people made their decision with their minds. Should I believe in the Prophet sallallahu, this claim to prophecy, is it true or false? All the Sahaba except for Sayyidina Abu Bakr, they used their brain. And they said, well, if he does this, then this is a sign of truth. Okay? All of them did this. Did not Salman al-Farisi go behind the back of the Prophet to try to see if he had the seal of prophethood? Okay? Did he then measured him against the descriptions of a prophet? He will not eat from sadaqah, but he will eat from a gift. First day he comes and announces, this barrel of dates is sadaqah. And he sits there watching to see if the Prophet will reach his hand. This barrel of dates is a gift. And he watches again. And he does see the Prophet reach his hand and eat from it. That's logical thinking. So I have the signs. I got to test the signs. Right? So how can we be intelligent beings and use our intellect to attain facts and to acquire certainty? Well, we should use this to the most important thing. Most important thing is our Creator. Right? Well, what would our Creator be like? A Creator cannot be a rock, cannot be a stone, because these things are dependent, right? These things come into existence all the time. New rocks are formed every day. Every time there's a storm on a mountain, part of the mountain breaks off and a rock is formed. If that rock then falls down the hill and breaks up, new pebbles are formed. Every day, this is formed. So therefore, there was a time where you didn't exist. How could you be the Creator if you didn't exist? This is logical thinking, all right? So he said this chapter's investigation is based on the assertion that the concept of God is logically sound and can be arrived at reliably. We have to then debate and go back to the likes of Dawkins, who always tries to put the God of Abraham alongside with the Greek gods, the Roman gods, the Egyptian gods, and all these other gods. Well, what's the difference? Those gods are either natural things in the sky and in the world, like the Native Americans had this too, or they're humanly manufactured deities. They drew them, they gave them names, they gave them stories. The God of Abraham has none of this. The God of Abraham is if we're going to talk the philosophical God, which is the God that you can prove, the attributes of God that you can prove with your intellect, have none of this. It's not a thing in nature. It's not a fabrication of a human being, an invention, a drawing, a name, a story, a statue. What is it? Right? It's the result of thought. We could not have come from nowhere, and we could not have existed forever. There must be a creator. That creator cannot then, therefore, have the attributes of created beings coming into existence, being in the existence, or in the material existence, and so on. My premise will challenge two different camps of people. The theists who just have faith in a form of deity that is logically impossible. And that comes, involves some Christians who will just believe in a God, although they will admit to you right on the spot that the 1 and the 3 is confusing. And I met a gentleman who was a really nice guy. Okay. The other day, Saturday, I went out and there was an open market in Metuchen. You know, these farmers markets. So let's see what kind of fruits and vegetables they got. Got a cup of coffee from the farmers there, that all the different sellers that are selling stuff. And I sit in the shade, have this cup of coffee, okay, with my family, and I'm sitting. Lo and behold, a massive guy, huge guy with a shaved head. He's got a massive tissue coming out of his nose. You can't not see him. This guy must have been like 6'4", very big guy. And I'm looking like, what a sight, right? Big tissue, must have a bloody nose, right? So he sits a couple benches away, and I got my misbah, and I'm drinking my coffee and enjoying the day. And he says, hey, can I ask you a question about this? He said, what do you do with that? Because we Catholics, we have this too. I just talked a little bit. I sat next to him, and we're chit-chatting. And he says, I got to be honest with you, there are a couple verses that point to the Trinity. And it's very confusing, right? And he is a Catholic. This is the number one. This is the number one belief, right, that you need to have. How could you have any shakiness on this? It's almost like you live your whole life, hey, that's my son, that's my wife, that's my daughter. I'm pretty sure that's my mom. Maybe I was adopted, maybe not, right? How could the bedrock of your existence be shaky like this? And how could you not have a direct verse? And if it's the truth, I need far more than one verse, right? An illusion. I need the Trinity. If it's the truth, right? And there's the book that Jesus brought. I need the Trinity like on every other page. We have Tawheed on every single page of the Quran, right? You cannot pick up the book, the Quran, for half a minute to peruse through it as a complete new reader of the Quran. Half a minute, you know that this religion has one God, right? And that God has no competition. There's no partner. There's no competitor. There's no opposite, right? Like a did, God of light, God of darkness, God of heaven, God of hell. No, none of that. Like Satan as the God of evil. No, he's not the God of evil. He's just a creation like anybody else, right? So how could you have this doubt? So the just have faith, because that's where they have to go. When they say, I don't really know, just you got to believe it, and that's it. We in Islam, we don't do that for anything. You know, to the degree by which this is rejected in Islam is that if you put $5 and say, you want to buy some coffee? Put $5 here, I'll give you some coffee. And you don't know what kind of coffee beans, how many coffee beans, the size of the coffee bean that I have. I just promising you coffee. Put $5, I'll give you coffee beans. That sale is invalid. Just trust me. I'm telling you, trust me. Put $5 here, trust me. I'll bring you coffee beans, right? You're not allowed to make that trade. Even on this idea of close your eyes and just trust me, right? In trade, simple purchases is invalid. You think we're allowed to do that in religion? It doesn't really make sense. It's contradictory. Just trust in it. No. So this is a deen that came to liberate intellects, and it came to liberate free will. Okay? Because we are also not allowed to go about life just relying upon signs, omens, bad omens, good omens. We can't do this, right? I want to marry him, right? I'm thinking about marrying him. I have a good feeling. No, think about it. Use your brain. Make a decision that is going to last for 50 years, 60 years, right? You cannot now come back later and say, well, it felt right. No, this is not how we do things in Islam. Okay? It's not how we do things on good omens, and we definitely don't believe in bad omens. What is the basic summary principle on omens in Islam. تَسُرُّكْ وَلَا تَضُرُّكْ. It should make you happy. It should not harm you. Okay? Like you're about to get married and a bird comes and defecates right on you. It means nothing to us. It means absolute zero. And I guarantee you, in some of these big Muslim families, someone's going to stop the wedding. There's someone that stop. Let's rethink this. Something's wrong. We in Islam will say absolutely nothing wrong is wrong, right? Isharat tasurruk wa la tadurruk. And if there's a problem, it's not because of the bird. It's something that happened before that, right? You got to check. Did you maybe reject somebody? Did you not invite somebody? Did you hurt somebody? Did you lie about this? That you could say maybe. Point you to that direction. But we would never say, okay, I'm not doing this. Why? Because a bad omen happened. A crow crossed in front of us, right? A ladder was opened inside of a house, or an umbrella. You walked under an umbrella, or all this nonsense, right? That people are superstitious about. In the West, these are the superstitions of the West. The East has their own superstitions. Okay. Nor will you ever make a decision based upon that. So that's why they said tasurruk. It should make you happy about your decision, not to be the basis of your decision. So we don't do that for things in regular life, let alone for the most important things, which is my creator. Right? Who is my creator? What are his attributes? Okay. So he goes back to those who just have faith in a form of a deity that's logically impossible. And I told this gentleman, he said, listen, can God come in human form? I said, the question is invalid. I said, can an infinite line be put between my two hands? Can you put an infinite line between my two hands? He said, of course not. Okay. So I said, God is transcendent beyond ever coming into a human form or ever dwelling in his creation. We call this hulul. Okay. Dwelling in his creation, or sitting on his creation, or being tucked into anything like this, called hulul in our aqidah. God is transcendent beyond. He said, but doesn't that limit God? I said, it's not a limit, because the divine power is not connected to rational impossibilities. You don't ask the question, can God do something irrational? Because what you're asking is an impossibility in the first place. Okay? So it's as if saying, oh, God doesn't have limits? Then God, his power is weak because he can't have a limit. Right? It even makes no sense. I could tell in his face, his mind was liberated. The moment I said irrationalities are not connected to divine power, you don't ask that question because it's an invalid question. So I said, look, can God create an elephant that has pink polka dots on it and flies through the sky? Yes, the answer is it's possible. It's a rational possibility. Okay? Because that's something that we haven't seen it. All right? But it could happen. So that's possible. But can God create an equation where 2 + 2 = 5? We say the question is invalid because what you're asking could never exist. So you don't ask if God can create a contradiction. So we say that, all right, al-qudra غير متعلقة, or we say al-qudra متعلقة بالجائز عقلا. The divine power is to be connected and discussed in relation to rationally possible things. Not mustahil aqlan, not things that are rationally impossible. It was just a very simple statement. Okay, divine power is not connected to irrationalities. He was liberated. His mind was like set free. Right? I need to keep in touch with this brother. So that's the first group. The second group are the atheists who uphold beliefs even when they are logically flawed. Okay. So atheists themselves are not purely logical, is his claim here. Both groups are similar in that they are willing to forego logic. Okay. Logical reasoning should make the fundamental case for or against God. Okay. Essentially, if God created us and wanted us to know about him, then what better way than to allow us to use the central utility tool that he presumably created for us, our mind. Come to know me. How do you know anything? With your mind. Right? So, alhamdulillah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has never, ever left the human being to his own devices, unless the human being has abandoned his jama'ah. But in general, humanity is always given aid. Allah is always helping people. We're never only have to rely upon our mind to know things. Alhamdulillah that we have revelation. Why is Islam the greatest of religions? Because its revelation came and spread throughout the world. Whereas in the past, you would have to search out far and wide. For example, al-haq for us, the truth for us is dhahir. The truth of Islam is dhahir. There is no such thing as I discovered a truth tucked into a library in a manuscript, right? And here's the truth, and the whole world turned out to be wrong, but I figured out like Da Vinci Code. That doesn't happen in Islam, but guess what? It did happen in previous ummahs. There were previous ummahs where that prophet may have had 2-3 followers. And those 3 followers, 2 of them died, 1 of them still alive, and where is he? He abandoned the people and he's living in a cave somewhere. So it is possible for previous faiths, previous religions, previous nations before the Prophet ﷺ, where the entire society was on paganism, and you dug and found the ancient manuscripts and went and found the ancient prophet or the ancient companion of a prophet, and you were the only one who discovered the truth. That is possible in the world of another religion. It is not possible in the world of Islam. All right, this is why the Prophet is the greatest of messengers, is his deen is like the sun. And he calls his deen layluha kanahariha. The most clear time and the most confusing time. The dark is the most confusing time. You don't know where anything is. Layluha kanahariha. The most confusing time, this religion is as clear as day, as if it was daytime. La yazighu anha illa halik. No one goes astray except he jumps astray. Halik here does not mean he goes astray. He gets destroyed. He wants to be destroyed. La yazighu anha illa man arada li nafsihi al-halak. Nobody goes astray from this religion except he purposely wants to destroy himself. That's how clear the deen is. Here we are. This is supposed to be one of the most confusing times that we're in, right? If a kid comes onto the world of Islam, they may be confused for a few days, for a few weeks. He's not going to be confused for a lifetime. He's going to be confused because, oh, well, this imam says this, another imam says that, there's a madhab here, there's a Shi'i, there's a Salafi, what's going on? If you exert effort for 6 months, you're going to know what's going on, right? It's not that hard. If you exert honest effort and you contact people and you have a clear brain and a clear heart too, it's not going to take too long. You're going to settle somewhere and you're going to know what the truth is, right? So I always wanted to read a nebdha, a little short chapter from this book. We learn something, constantly refreshing, nonstop our knowledge. And now let's turn to the Q&A here. Can you recommend a book on Asbab and Nuzul? Yeah, Siyuti's Lubab and Nuqul fi Asbab Nuzul. The Lubab is the kernels of the transmissions on the Asbab of Nuzul. That's the best book you're going to get. Can you tell me something about Yahya Jilani, son of Abdul Qadir al-Jailani? I don't know anything about him. I know that his sons formalized the tariqah after him. Do humans exist as thoughts? Should we exist? Do we exist physically right as we are right now, not as a figment of someone's imagination? If a brother had purchased a car in the past with APR, if he sells the car, pays off the principal, are the remaining profits from the sale haram? No. If he sells it, the sale will be halal. His having to pay the interest, he should make istighfar from that. Okay. How much does YouTube take if we become a member? A good question. I really don't know. But Patreon gives you some more options than YouTube. Good question. And here is an answer saying 30%. Thank you for answering that. Okay. Moab, the hadith about blocking the path of non-Muslims and narrowing their path while walking is seen as oppressive by the West. How do you explain this to them? That was in the case if there is conflict. Like if there's a conflict between the two, you don't get out of the way when you're walking. They walk out of the way, not you. There's a conflict. In general life, that's not the case at all, right? There's nothing that says that in general life, routinely living in the UK or in England or Christians in Egypt or something, or Christians in Syria or something, that we would do that and we behave like that. And none of the scholars did that, nor did the Muslims. So it's in a case of a conflict. Okay. I'm sure we can read more on the shuruhat on that, but I do remember coming upon that and reading that many years ago. Okay. Chocolate Walla says that people talk about the Trinity and say it's a mystery. Okay, I need the most important thing in my life not to be a mystery, right? I like foundations that are. How could you have a foundation? Can you imagine someone says your parents, it's a mystery? It's okay. It's a mystery. Maybe you're adopted. Maybe you're not. Could you imagine that? You'd be mentally unwell. You'd be emotionally destabilized, right? How could I not have doubts about my Creator? I need to have absolute certainty in my Creator. That's why anything that brings a touch of a doubt related to the Creator, as you got to be just and because there are things that are harmful. So perennialism is one of the most harmful ideas. The concept that don't really have to really believe in the Prophet, peace be. Well, then do I really have to pray Fajr? Like if that's shaky, right? Why would anything else carry over, right? And if that's shaky, then hold on a second. What was the whole point of this revelation, right? Is the whole point of all this? Oh, you didn't really have to do it. So wait a second. All the Sahaba who fought, and one of the Sahaba, Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, the 10 guaranteed paradise, they could not see skin anymore on his back. It was all scar tissue from the battles that he fought. But then there were Christians who died in Najran, right? Christians in Yemen, Christians here. Are you telling them they have the same finality, right? The same result? What was the point of it all then? Also, anything that would suggest God is tricky. God tricks you. God maybe could be tricking you, right? What does Allah say about this in the Quran? He limits it. وَلَا يَحِيقُ الْمَكْرُ السَّيِّئُ إِلَّا بِأَهْلِهِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the bad plot only comes to the one who is trying to plot against somebody else innocently, or as someone who is innocent. You dig a hole for an innocent person to fall in, that's what you're the one who's gonna fall into it. That's God's trick. God's trick is your trick on the innocent person that comes back to you. There's never a belief in Islam that, oh, maybe Allah's gonna mislead me. Oh, maybe Allah's tricking me. Okay, maybe I have this great feeling of sakina in my heart, but it's a trick, right? There's no games like this being played. When the Prophet ﷺ saw a mom who was bringing her child to her, and she said to the child, "Come, I have something in my hand here for you." The Prophet ﷺ said, "Do you have something in your hand?" She said, "Yes, I have a date." He said, "Good, because if it not, then you would have been lying. That's a sin against you." So if that is sinful in our religion, is it fathomable that Allah does tricks on people like this? So this foundation has to be so clear and solid and no doubt. You know, this Christian guy, what he said to me, he says, "You know what I love about Islam? You guys don't negotiate, right? Like you guys got stuff in your religion, you don't negotiate." He said, "In our church, it's shaky." I said, "Man, why aren't you a Muslim yet?" SubhanAllah. In my mind, I was saying that. He says, "You guys don't negotiate, right? It's set in stone." Sometimes a person, their heart is somewhere, but their mind is still holding them back. Or their mind is somewhere, but their heart is still holding them back. Okay. Yep.
How do people come to the belief that it's possible for God to lie?
Oh, that's a big question that we don't believe that it is possible. We don't believe. We believe it's an irrationality. Rationally and scripturally. Scripturally because he calls himself al-haq. They agree with that too. Right? But we differ on it even being a rational possibility because God's speech, knowledge, and action, all about speech, action, and action, okay, are in accord with his knowledge. Right? So there cannot possibly be speech that contradicts action, because they're both accord to his knowledge. So that's why the Ash'ari position is that he cannot ever be rationally nor scripturally. Those who say that say it is possible rationally, but not scripturally. All right, what do we got from Instagram? You said God's power doesn't apply to irrational things. Does that mean we can't make dua for things that we feel are irrational? No, we don't make dua for things that are irrational. But what is irrational? Self-contradictory. Oh Allah, make me a daughter and a mother of the same person. Impossible, right? Can never be the daughter and the mother of the same person. Okay? I cannot be someone's mom and their daughter at the same time. Let me marry someone who is my mahram and not at the same time. It doesn't work like this. So you can make dua for something that you feel is beyond your imagination of how it could happen, right? That you may make dua for. They call that al-mustahil adatan. That, or maybe not. That's not even that. Mustahil adatan. We shouldn't even say that. That you're not allowed to make dua for that either. Mustahil adatan is something that is rationally possible, but in real life it's impossible. Like a mountain of hamburgers, right? You're never going to see that. It's not that it's not possible for God to create that, but it's not something in life. But make me a billionaire. It's possible. You cannot, maybe you can't imagine, but you can make dua for that. It's possible. Mustahil adatan, oh Allah, let me dig in the ground until I find a mountain of gold. Mountains of golds could possibly exist, but it's mustahil adatan. That, it's like, it's silliness to make prayers like that. To see something that's mustahil adatan. Ada is the norm of life. But you're in a situation, let's just use money as an example, that you are $100,000 in debt, you don't have many skills, you don't have a degree. Yet you are praying that Allah transform your situation to make you a billionaire. Not a millionaire, a billionaire. You surely can make that dua, and in any way, shape, and form that you can take the means to do that, that's an answer to your dua. But ultimately, if you take that dua with a sincere heart that, like, I'm so sick of being impoverished, I want to have a lot of money for a good reason, for a good cause, okay? And you take that dua to one of the special times, and you're truly sincere about this, and you believe that it's possible, give it 3, 4, 5 months, as long as the preconditions of dua, that your income and your wealth and your job is halal and your food is halal, then there's no reason why that dua won't be answered. If you truly, seriously love it and desire it, and you keep to the answered times. Okay. Speaking of halal food, a brother really got on the nerves. There was a sheikh in New Jersey who went around telling his murids that our masjid MBIC, or he was saying there is a mosque in Central Jersey that serves non-halal food. Omar, did you hear about this? Okay. So he actually comes in and he wants to know, I heard our sheikh told us that there's a masjid in Central Jersey that serves non-halal food. I wasn't there, but the person did respond to them. First of all, your sheikh, it would be sinful to not specify what it is. And why would you not specify what it is, right? Can I possibly tell you that in the hamburgers that are here, that we're all going to eat right now, one of them's haram? You can't. You must identify which one is haram and remove it and discard it. Okay? But if all the hamburgers are there and someone comes in and tucks in one that's haram and mixes it all up, guess what we have to do in Sharia? Discard all of them. Okay? So what this sheikh was actually trying to do is undermine trust, because he wants to name someone without naming them. And the reason is that he follows an opinion, which is a respectable and honorable and safe and excellent position, which is that they only hand slaughtered is halal. The machine slaughtered is not halal. Ahlan wa sahlan. No problem with that. Even some of the Malikiyah hold that fatwa too. But not all of them. And the bulk of the Shafi'iyya and the Malikiyya, they do not have a shart, a condition, that the knife be held with the hand, right? And they say, what if the knife is the length of the room? And I do this and I slaughter. Is it valid? Yes. Okay, what if I attach the knife to a machine and I press the button, right? And it's slaughtered. What is the difference, right? And the basmala is merely recommended in the Shafi'i school. And in the Maliki school, it's a fard ma'a dhikri wal qudra. It's fard if I'm able to, and if I remember. So for that reason, the shiyukh of the Malikiyah, there was nothing wrong with the machine slaughter according to that fatwa, right? So what he was doing, in fact, is not bringing up halal food, is trying to sow mistrust in the teachers at MBIC, right? By saying things like there's a mosque in Central Jersey that serves not halal food. If you had any knowledge, I don't know how you're a sheikh. You would have to specify which mosque, and you would have to call us to forbid us from wrong, right? And forbidding wrong can't be that you have to follow the Hanafi opinion. Sorry, I don't have to follow any of your opinions. Not one of them am I obligated to follow, right? Not one of your opinions. Nor not one of your shiyukh do I have to follow their fatwa. Because it's a matter of ijtihad, right? In matters of ijtihad, where the matter is a nazila, we have many madhahib, alhamdulillah. Okay. So if the slaughter is valid in someone's madhab, then it would be valid for any Muslim to eat. Okay. Just like salah. Salah in the Shafi'iyah are allowed to swipe over waterproof socks. We are not Malikiyah, are not allowed to do that. Neither are Hanaf allowed to do that or not, Omar? They are allowed. Okay, so if a Hanafi then comes and wipes over one of these athletic socks that are hydro skins or whatever, the really thin, the really great socks, right? And they're waterproof, wipes over them. I pray behind him. It's valid for him, it's valid for me. Same with foods. If it's valid for you, it's valid for me. Maybe like the animal, if it's the animal itself, it may be a different story. So a Hanafi will not just walk into someone's house and eat the crabs and all that stuff. That's fine because it's the animal itself. But the method and the means of slaughter in all four madhahib are valid. And they produce food that may be consumed by a Muslim. Period. Discussion over. And if you enter someone's home, you don't ask. You've already accepted his invitation. So I don't ask. I've accepted your invitation. I don't ask you now, how did you slaughter? Did you ma'a dhikri wal qudra? Did you remember to say Bismillah? Right? Were you ittisal with the knife? Right? Did you have ittisal with the knife, or was it with a machine? You don't ask those questions. You accepted the invitation, you go. Same with the managers of masajid. The manager of a waqf. He invites you to a dinner, right? You accept it. If not, you don't enter it at all. Or at least enter the dinner portion at all. But what you don't do as a Muslim is go in and insult the person by saying, I have doubts about your meats. Right? You can say, if it's not halal, you tell him directly with it, look him in the eye and say, this is not halal and this is the proof. Like the fatwa, which we say it openly. The fatwa of take any meat from the supermarket, say Bismillah and eat. We're telling you, there's no ijtihad in this. You must slaughter. If it's a Christian, he must slaughter. If he's a Jew, he must slaughter. Okay? So to go and say, take Tyson's chicken or any old chicken from the supermarket, say Bismillah and eat. This is not a matter of ijtihad. So there's no hiding it here. We put it in plain sight. Brother, you're eating haram. Meita? Yes, meita. Okay? Not an opinion. This is ijma'. Okay? Upon that. So what people try to do is sow seeds of mistrust when they say things like that. Okay. And that malintent is something that people should check their intention and see really what are you really trying to get at. You're trying to really make him have doubts about going to that place so he can come to your place. That's really at the end of the day what it is. Can one use omens as a figure of speech? As in seeing something beautiful, it is a sign of Allah, but use the word omen for people to understand. We believe in good omens, right? Good omen, it adds happiness to your decision. It is not the source of your decision, nor is it a bad omen. We don't accept bad omens. We only accept good omens, but not as the foundational basis of a decision. Such as if someone was to ask you, why did you make this decision? You should be able to put reasons, not an omen. An omen just makes you happy about your decision. I want to tell you all about a Google app, Google Chrome app that you can put on your computers. It's called Tahir. And it's meant for people who need to be online all day and doing things. You click Tahir and it will give you the option to blur, okay, videos, pictures, and anything else to whatever degree you want. Okay, the blur amount can be little or much. Okay, let's say you need to read. Forget the haram. Just how about distraction? Let's say I want to read an article. You use Tahir and put the blur all the way. All the ads will just come out as just like gray. Okay, so that you will avoid distractions. Let's say you're searching for something. I searched one time for dua on YouTube, as every regular Muslim does, right? What do I get? Dua Lipa, right? Turkish singer pop star. I think she's a Turkish pop star. I have no idea. Now I got Dua Lipa coming in my feeds, right? And sometimes, you know, it's like one of these trying to be provocative covers that they put, all right? I don't know if I pronounced it right or not, but that's what I got. So let's say you're searching for something and you think that you see the right one, but it's blurred. You can go on, hover your mouse on that and hit Alt-K and just see that image, right? Just to see that image. Or you could be on looking at all the images and you don't want to see one image, so you turn off Tahir and you go to the image that you don't want to see and you hit Alt-K. They'll give you the shortcuts in the app, right? These shortcuts are right there. Shortcuts there. What is it? Alt-L, Alt-C, right? And so you could selectively you see that? What are you hitting, Omar? Alt-K. So you can blur everything and then just selectively hit Alt-K. Okay? And you could turn the whole app on and off with a shortcut key, Alt-L. Okay? You know what the L stands for? Lower the gaze. Alt-L, right? Okay. So this should really help a lot of brothers and sisters. And someone recently told me that sisters too. Like they get attracted at guys, to guys. So we always talk about the brothers, but sisters too. Go ahead. Yeah.
A few months back, you talked about the honeybee,
Mm-hmm.
the venom that it produces being beneficial.
Yeah, a while back we did that. Yep.
So, what are some other reasons that or benefits we can take from honeybees, and the reason why Allah mentioned them in the Quran specifically?
Honeybees have amazing benefits. One of the benefits is that the health of an environment that's healthy enough for humans to live at can be measured by the health of the bee colonies. So where bees are decreasing, then this is not an environment that's really conducive for human life. That's why North Pole, you don't get any bees. Middle of the desert, no bees. Where you have bees, it indicates that there are other things in the environment that humans need. They also say that frogs are no different. The presence of frogs in an area, because what does it indicate? Like fresh water, right? So bees, what does it indicate? Flowers and fruits and all that stuff. So the bee venom is a cure. And there's a whole little cottage industry of little medical, not exactly like mainstream medicine, but alternative medicine. They use bee venom. So they'll get a bee and they'll sting themselves with it. And I'm sure that they have it now as drops. You don't have to actually get a bee, right? Drops. Look at them. They actually take a living bee and they sting themselves with it. Okay. Of course, when we eat honey, it's coming from the stomach of the bee. And that's one of the proofs of the Quran too. Because Allah says from their stomachs is a shifa. And we now know that honey is actually, they're regurgitating something to produce the honey. How would the prophets have known that at that time? It's one of the proofs of the Quran. But you know what we should do? We should really get a book. We should buy a booklet on all the benefits of honey. We'll go back up. Anti-inflammation. How does it anti-inflammatory? How is it anti-inflammatory? Melatonin can cause itching, pain, and inflammation. It has a potent anti-inflammatory effects. Is this the honey or is it bee venom? Bee venom, okay. It can suppress inflammatory pathways and reduce inflammatory markers, such as tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNFA, of course, and interleukin 1 beta. Okay. Arthritis-related symptoms can be alleviated by bee venom. All right, go to the benefit of skin health. Go down. May benefit skin health. Multiple skincare companies have started adding bee venom, okay, to moisturizers. The ingredient may promote skin health in several ways, including reducing inflammation, okay, and reducing wrinkles, and has antibacterial effects. A 12-week study in 22 women demonstrated that applying facial serum containing bee venom twice daily reduced wrinkle depth and total wrinkle count in compared with a placebo. Another 6-week study found that 77% of participants with mild to moderate acne who used serum containing purified bee venom twice daily had an improvement in their acne as compared to a placebo. What's more, test tube studies have shown that the venom has powerful antibacterial and anti-inflammatory effects against the acne-causing bacteria. Okay, brothers and sisters, if you have acne and you need to get married soon, go get yourself serum with bee venom. If you have wrinkles, okay, go get yourself some of that serum. All right, what other potential benefits? Do you have a neurological disease? Some research suggests that bee venom therapy may help reduce symptoms related to neurological diseases, such as Parkinson's disease, though human studies are limited on this. Okay, fair enough. Pain. One study showed that bee venom acupuncture, along with traditional medication, significantly reduces pain. I think it's distracting the pain. That's why, right? I got pain in my nerve or my muscle. Now I got a bee stung me. My mind is now thinking about but it's saying the venom, not the sting itself. So it says it helps reduce pain, and it may fight Lyme disease. Okay. This website, they put all kinds of evidence. How do you guys know?
Middle grade family doctor.
Oh, you're a doctor. That's why. And you're a medical student. So Healthline it includes Da'if Hadith, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what he's saying. Plus, it includes Da'if. And tell me something. Which website do you go to for knowledge?
If I look, it'd be good to get a meta-analysis from Google Scholar. PubMed is the official thing. That's things that have been rigorously tested in controlled environments.
Yeah.
So PubMed is quite good.
PubMed is for everybody to study? Website for everyone?
They won't be able to understand it if they're not scientific.
What about for the regular folk like ourselves?
I think the Mayo Clinic website, that's quite good. Our NHS website in England, that's really good because they won't sell you some. They won't sell you anything that's not legit. So acupuncture, like if we've got patients who have these, pains and stuff, acupuncture is in our guidelines in England now.
Acupuncture is a
we can't actually give it, but we can recommend them to go private, and it's actually like 5th or 6th because they've seen that people are doing it and it's helping them. So that is evidence in and of itself.
What about insurance? Will the government won't cover the acupuncture though, but allow you to recommend it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Certain things like
That's good.
pain and things.
Very good. What is it?
It'd be easy if you get something called a meta-analysis, which is like getting a whole bunch of research to get 100 of them and saying what.
Oh, AI has done that?
Not AI, it's humans.
People do it. Okay.
For now.
So for PubMed, first of all, it's a public website, right? That's why it's published medical journals. But I don't need to sign in, right?
You'll at least get get the abstract. You might
Yeah.
get the full thing, but you get the abstract.
That's all I need. The abstract.
Yeah.
I need this the 60 second.
Yeah, you don't need the
Yeah.
long.
Just give me the fatwa. I don't need all the adilla, right?
It's not quite secret sauce yet, but
Okay, good.
it's not quite there.
Good. Let's take this question before because it pertains to Salah. Sony's asking, is silent prayer, can I do it aloud if I'm alone to concentrate? And the answer is no, but the threshold, silence and aloudness, they do meet each other at one threshold, which is that you can hear yourself. So the loudest of silent Salah is that you can hear yourself. The most of silent Salah is you can hear yourself. The least of out loud Salah is you can hear yourself. So the ceiling of silent and the floor of aloud meet at the threshold of you hearing yourself. So if your neighbor can hear you or someone next to you can hear you, then you're not silent anymore. You're aloud. So just to answer that question before we start closing off and getting to other subjects. Now 311, we have to close off, folks. Sheikh, what did you mean when you said Sufis have innovations? Don't consider yourself mutasawwif? Yes, but the Sufiya do have innovations. I'm sure you can find them in their circles. Innovations develop. There's no doubt about that. Sheikh Asrar has a nice video on that. We shouldn't shy off and say that innovations have entered Sufiya. Right? We'd be lying to ourselves. Innovations now, some of the innovations, we will fight for them because they are innovations that have a basis in the religion and have many fatwa behind them and are considered recommended or necessary, such as in Morocco, the group recitation of the Quran after Fajr and Maghrib. Any group majlis lidhikrillah scheduled on time, that was an innovation that has a basis, right? The basis of the Prophet's own actions. After Salah, he taught the Sahaba by saying the Adhkar out loud. Everyone said the Adhkar out loud. It's in Bukhari in two narrations, one after the other, from Ibn Abbas. So those things, we will fight for them. Other innovations, we'll stay silent about them because it could go either way. And other innovations, they clearly contradict the Sharia or they jam off the Sunnah. And there we would fight against them. Okay? Any innovation that is a clear contradiction to the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That's how a Shafi'i defined al-bid'ah. Okay? And that's what we go by. So we shouldn't try to sugar everything up and say, yes, everything is acceptable. No. Excessive bid'ah makes religion almost unbearable. There's too much going on here. Yes. Yeah.
How can we, first of all, give dawah to non-Muslims, and secondly, introduce new Muslims to tasawwuf given its negative stereotypes due to the Najdi dawah?
So the first one is introducing someone to tasawwuf?
The first one is how can you give dawah to non-Muslims?
Give dawah to non-Muslims. I think the best dawah to non-Muslims is demonstration. And we as Muslims, and demonstration that this is a better way of living. And I firmly believe in the places like England, like America, okay, like Australia, Canada, these Western nations that have gone so far astray, Belgium, so far astray in sexuality, in family destruction. They're so far off. We're going to see in 10 years 2 different worlds. And I really am curious on the measure of the emotional stability of the kids who come out of one versus the other. Like the kids who come out of societies or communities where everyone's got a mom and dad, pretty much everyone knows who their mom and dad is. And you live in a pretty predictable way in terms of your sexuality, right? There's a track made for you. Versus the kids who are going to come out of the current LGBT climate where all the stuff is up for grabs, no answers are given, everything that's done is not proven, right? Recently, they just had a kid die when they tried to do a trans operation for him, 18-year-old kid. The stuff is not proven. It's not tested. Let's just see in 15 years, maybe less, just 10 years. Let's look at the emotional, mental stability of both sides. people will see for themselves what the truth is. And on top of that, let's go to this side of all those who are that are family based. Who succeeded in preserving their mosques, churches, or synagogues from this invasion, right, of deviation, sexual deviation, and deviance? Because every day in the news there's a new march by Muslims, and people are just breathing a sigh of relief. Non-Muslims are finally, someone stood up. They know how to stand up to it. Demonstration to me is the best. But of course, that's a macro level demonstration. With non-Muslims, the best is the immediate micro level. As a friend, what kind of friend are you? When you guys get together, you don't backbite. When you guys, what are your gatherings like? A gathering of a group of guys. Are people generally friendly? Generally backbite? Generally don't backbite? Generally don't make fun of how people look? That'll be haram for us, right? That's the micro level demonstration of this is what Islam has produced. Guys like this, like women like this, where certain things we're never going to talk about. We're not going to talk about girls. You're not going to be talking about, the other people. What's that? We're not going to be talking about vulgar things, right? People are generally welcoming, generally have manners. People pitch in to pay. They share their food. Fight to pay, right? Fights to pay. All right. They share their food. That's the micro demonstration. Now, as for the other question that you said, it's the question of don't have to introduce someone to tasawwuf and say, come and be a Sufi and learn tasawwuf. What is tasawwuf? It's many different ways to draw near to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's part of tasawwuf. That's not the official definition or anything, but so you introduce them to those things. Tahajjud, siyam, dhikr. Most importantly, adhkar. That's the most important thing. Dhikr. The practices. We're not looking for someone to say, okay, I've converted and I believe in tasawwuf. Who cares about that? It's a word. It's a name. The madmoon is what matters. So you start introducing them to things such as there's something here called dhikr. If you do this, you're going to relax yourself. Look what the Prophet said about it. Do it on your own, with the misbah, without a misbah. And once they benefit from that, then that's really what you want, right? That's your goal. All right, folks. Jazakumullahu khairan. Nice stream to start the week. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk wal asr innal insana lafi khusr إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Kalbe şifa